it's about that network and relationships. I think in this time of the market where it is a little bit doom and gloom, and there is more pain to come, as you've said, there are still going to be opportunities out there. And so it's about keeping your mindset right. And if you're surrounding yourself with the right people and having the right conversations, that's going to help motivate you.
Welcome back, Leverage Addicts, where we deep dive into property and finance strategies. I'm thrilled to have Sally on here today. Now, if you guys have been on the channel for a while, you guys will know that she's a seasoned property trader and she's also a property coach. Now, for those that want to learn more about her journey, sort of how she got into it, we have another episode in the YouTube or the Spotify. So definitely check that out and I'll put it in the description. So what we're going to talk about today. Today, we are actually going to dive into what her market insight is from her end because she is still actively trading. We're also going to look at one of the recent deals she did and understand some of the numbers, the thought process behind it, the good and the bad, and see what we can learn from it. And a quick reminder, if you find value in today's episode, all I ask for is one thing, and that is to share this episode with one other person who will find value from it. Now, if you ask the general public, most people will be like, properties, I'm not sure. Interest rate is really high. Prices are like a bit shaky. And if you talk about property trading, probably everybody is walking away from it. But for a seasoned veteran like Sally herself, this is actually a decent playground to play in because there are more deals that you can negotiate and there are a lot of deals where you can add value. So whether or not you're trading or just a property investor buying to hold, there are some key principles that we can learn from traders because they are always building a large margin of safety. And so some of the lessons today you can definitely apply in your property investing journey. Sally, welcome back to another episode.
Thanks, Brendan. What an intro.
How was the drive here? It was massive rain last night. I left the door like slightly open for the cats and it got flooded in the house.
Oh, no.
Well, anything on your end? You live in like a lifestyle property, so.
Yeah, we do. We got a slight slope, so not too bad. Definitely some rain overnight, but I think for me, I woke up thinking it was great because I've got a trade property that I've just put some grass seed down. It's growing quite well, actually. So if we can have a week of rain, it'll grow that much better.
Really?
I don't have to go there and water it every day.
You don't need much sun for those seeds.
I've actually had it sown for about 2 weeks, and so it's starting to grow really well,
Nice.
but just needs some decent moisture in the ground.
Oh,
It's pretty dry. It was pretty dry. We hadn't had any rain for a while.
I thought we can dive right in because from your perspective, you have been still trading. You've been, doing deals with some clients, doing some joint ventures. What's the current state of the market from your end? How quickly are properties moving? What's happening with prices?
I'm definitely a realist and I don't want to sugarcoat what it's like out there. Everyone knows it's tough. Properties in abundance. There's oversupply and there's not as much demand.
Yeah.
People are still hearing the story that it's a great time to buy, and some people who are pre-qualified are taking that opportunity to get themselves a really good property and to get that first step onto the ladder, which is great. Most of the properties that we trade go to first home buyers, and so they've always loved our stock. The only problem is that there's not that many first home buyers out there.
Yeah.
And so whenever I've been asked this question, my response has always been it's patchy.
Yeah.
There's some properties that are flying out the window, flying out the door. And there's other properties that are sitting around. And I think it comes down to a number of key things.
Yeah.
That the buyers are flocking to quality. They're
Yes.
flocking to certain areas. And the things for us as traders that we have to be aware of is making sure that we are purchasing that property that is going to tick all the boxes for buyers. Because if all those boxes aren't ticked, then they're not going to press go on it.
Yeah.
So is it in a good location? Is it in the price point of first home buyers? There's no point trying to put something out at $1 million where first home buyers can't reach it. We're dealing with really high interest rates. And I think with all the stories coming out of people being overextended in their mortgages, having to sell, people don't want to put themselves in that position again. So therefore they're being conservative with the money that they've got, maybe not going to the top price that the mortgage broker is telling them they can go to, and then making sure that what they're buying, they don't have to put any more dollars in the near future. So I think for us as traders, we're seeing some things selling really well. The majority of the properties that are selling well are the things that are do-ups and add value. There are so many people that are like myself that are trading or buy and hold investors or really savvy people that are trying to buy these properties as low as possible. So actually the competition for me is actually really high. It's trying to sell them. And I am lucky that I've got quite a big network of clients and other traders that I discuss things with, that I can see that there are some things that are really flying out the door, and they come down to, no shared driveways. Often it's cross-lease because it's a lower price point.
Yeah, really?
And renovated. But you don't necessarily have to do everything on the renovation if you can leave something that is very tidy and you can put it out at a lower price point, that's always beneficial as well.
That's interesting. And where are you trading predominantly? Is it like any specific suburbs in South Auckland, or sort of like all over, just wherever the deal is?
Yeah, so we've been dealing in South Auckland, and I've seen that Manurewa is still holding pretty well, albeit there are a smaller number of buyers. So it could mean that you factor in larger holding costs to make sure that you can get it gone. Papatoa is still holding pretty well. Papakura is pretty dead, and Otara has really dropped, probably the most out of all the South Auckland suburbs.
Yeah.
And I think that also comes down to job security and, income levels. If you take the incomes of people that live in Otara, and I'm going to stereotype here, I apologise, but between Otara and Papatoa, you've got different clientele with different jobs and different earning abilities.
Yeah.
And so there's no surprise to me that Otara isn't able to get the prices that we were seeing before Christmas, but yet Papatoa is still holding.
Interesting. And we actually had Nick Corder on last week from CoreLogic, and he was talking about affordability is huge. It's huge when it comes to property prices. For your end, where are you seeing comes as a surprise? Like the property price is still higher than where you expected them to be. What sort of properties are like, wow, that is a really good deal?
To be honest, nowhere really. I think that it's not so much that it's a really good deal. It's more the fact that, that suburb is still holding.
Okay.
And that is Manurewa. If you are wanting to be firm on your price and you're sure that that's where the value is, then you just have to wait for the buyer. Like I said, in terms of demand, there's not much demand. The right buyer will come along, but will they come along in the first weekend of open homes, or will they come through in the 10th weekend of open homes? So it really comes down to the lending of that property and whether or not the person that's selling it can hold on until they get that price.
Yeah.
And so it comes down to being a little bit of a falling knife in areas, because if you've got somebody that desperately needs to sell, then they'll sell it at a discount, and then the next person will sell it at a discount. And so that's when the property prices start to fall.
Far out.
But the prices do seem to be holding in some suburbs, but I'm certainly not getting wowed by any great sales.
Yeah. Like, what are you seeing in the last 12 months? Has the sort of supply demand shifted? Like, if you look at maybe clearance rate, like how much are selling in one sitting of auction? Like, how has that shifted in the last 12 months?
Oh, hugely. You can see across all of the agencies that auction clearance rates are dropping. But that doesn't always give a true indication of how the properties are selling, because some of those, it comes down to vendor expectations as well. It comes down to how well the agent has conditioned their vendor to meet the market.
Yeah.
And often it's the fall of the hammer, and then the vendor becomes realistic. Or maybe you've got a lot of first home buyers that don't want to invest the money into an auction campaign, and they wait for it to fall over, and then they can put in a conditional offer.
Of course.
And often then they go to multi-offer. So it's really hard to gauge unless you're physically and able to talk to every agent about what's happening with that property. But there seems to be still some good activity out there. Again, it just comes down to flocking to quality. If it's trader stock and it's something where you can add value, an extra bedroom or a bathroom, they are selling very well. And you've got multiple bidders and offers going in on those sorts of properties.
Yeah.
If it's a really top quality at a good price, they're still selling. But there's a number of home buyer stock that's just tidy, but they're still wanting really good figures, kind of from middle of last year, and we're not seeing it there anymore.
Yeah.
So it's definitely declined in the last 12 months.
Yeah. Interesting. And how are you feeling about where that is heading?
Well, it doesn't feel good, does it? It kind of feels like there's another shoe to drop. We're coming into winter. We always know that listings are harder to sell in winter. People don't want to go outside and traipse through open homes unless, of course, they're really serious. So to me, I feel like it's going to be slow. It's going to be slow in winter. It's harder to get money until people start to see the interest rates start to fall a little bit more. It won't give them the surety. And correct me if I'm wrong. Obviously, you see more than I do from your side of the desk. But until those interest rates come down and the weather starts to get better, I don't see that it's going to pick up until probably closer to Christmas.
Yeah, I think, well, this is not based on stats, but if you look around, ask your mates, I'm trying to look at the people around me, maybe just hearing from clients as well, is that restructures are happening more often, right? Unemployment rate needs to go up. If you go look at Reserve Bank, what are the two statistics they look at? Number one, inflation. Number two, unemployment rate. And inflation's come down, right? We yet to see unemployment rate to shoot up or to a point where, you're going to start seeing like more drops from the bank. But I'm definitely seeing more, right? Like I'm hearing the restructure just around the corner, like in a lot of firms, smaller firms, medium firms. And that kind of needs to happen for, I guess, the overall interest rate to come down. We kind of need a portion of the population to feel, that short-term pain for the overall interest rate to come down. So I do think it might still be a little while. You know how statistics work. It's like they release the data and then they make the decision. So it's like, well, you only start hearing it and it's going to be like 6 months down the track. You start seeing all these statistics. So I'd say it's really important for anyone, especially even investors holding, trading, they just have a larger runway. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you're right. It takes a long time for that to filter through to the media. And most people, they read or listen to what the media is saying and then they take it as being true. Whereas we're actually seeing a lot of the precursor to all of this now.
And so we've got property prices trending down, but you're still trading. So what's going on in your mind in terms of like, what are you thinking about? Because you're still looking for deals. How does that work?
Yeah. So there's always going to be people looking for property. And okay, the numbers are smaller. So it's really about making sure that you can get that buyer on your property. And how do you do that? You buy well. So just making sure that your numbers are solid. I like to build buffers in. So whether or not that's in your buy price. So you buy it lower, you've got a lower end value, or you've got a greater amount of profit in there. So then if it all works out as it should, then, you've gained some cream on top. But if the worst case scenario comes, you're still making good money at the end of the day. And so for me, I would rather miss out on property than buy one and have it be the wrong deal.
Yeah.
So I think at this point, patience is key and really keeping your habits solid, working, the nuts and bolts, looking as many properties as you can, keeping those habits solid that you are checking Trade Me often, you are going to view as many properties as possible, going to as many auctions as possible, making sure that you are present and ready for any deal as they present, because a lot of trading is offering and attending auctions, and you'll do that for maybe 100 properties before you get one deal. And there's a lot of time and effort that's involved in that to get that one deal, and you want to make sure that if you can only do one, that it's the best deal you could possibly buy.
So it sounds like a lot of work. Let's talk about the reward of this system, right? Last time you showed a deal where the margin was something like 70K and you sold it before you put on the market because some buyer, came to put an offer and you're like, well, faster is more. So you took the deal. What do you have this time for us to explore? What's the most recent deal that you've done? Maybe we can walk through that.
Yeah, sure. And, as much as I want to show the nice side of trading, there's also a real side of trading, and that's that not all deals happen that quickly. So the next one that I've got to talk about is actually a property that I signed up in July last year after that deal.
Yeah. I remember that one.
And so this was a property that was 2 cross-lease properties purchased together. And I was actually going out with some trader friends to look at some properties. And this property was on our list to look at. But we discounted it just because there were other deals that we thought would be better to look at. And we didn't look at it. And another trader put in a pre-auction offer and it sold. And it sold for an amazing price.
Yeah.
And so I ended up having an agent ring me up and say, hey, do you know that this trader bought this? I know that they would pass it on for $100,000. So they'd add on an extra $100,000 than what they bought it for.
Jeez.
And it is open to me if I want to buy it. And so I said yes.
Yeah.
Because based on the numbers that I'd done, it was a deal, even at that price.
Wow.
So I think one of the things that I say to my clients as well, never discount it because someone else is going to make some good money.
Yeah.
So you run the numbers based on what they are. And so when I purchased this property, I actually bought it so the two properties, it was in Mangere and it was in the area of near the airport. And so it's quite a sought after area for certain religions. So it doesn't have a huge buyer pool, but it is sought after to the right person. So we bought it for $821 for both.
Far out.
And so
how many bedroom?
So yeah, the front house, so it was attached. So the front house was 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom.
Okay.
And the rear property was 3 bedroom and 2 bathrooms. And the hurdle with this property was that the previous owner had extended it. So it used to be a 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom for both.
Yeah.
But the previous owner was a builder, had extended it, but never updated the flats plan.
Right.
So that's one of the things with cross-lease properties you've got to be aware of. Does the flats plan match? So the previous trader had already started that process of updating the flats plan. So out of that $100,000 that he got, he was paying for that flats plan update.
Yeah.
So there were tenants in place, 3 months settlement. So never settled this property until the 1st of September. So I did this with a JV partner, very low money down, and renovated both.
Yeah.
So real easy renovation. We ended up changing the back house to be a 4 bedroom and 2 bathroom. So added value, renovated both. The renovation on both properties. So overall 6 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 2 lounges came to $96,000 plus GST.
$96,000 plus
$96,000.
Yep.
And I ended up dragging my feet on the renovation. Looking back, not the smartest move. So as we know, in October, it was the elections. And historically, the market is always slow in the lead up to elections.
Yeah.
And then everything was pointing towards it being really good after the elections.
Yeah.
So I kind of waited and didn't push the reno through as fast as I could have.
Yeah.
I used a few tradies that were a little bit slower but cheaper. And it meant that we were ready to hit the market just after the elections.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in Mangere, it was really hot in the lead up to the elections.
Really?
Which bucked the trend.
Yeah.
And it was almost dead after the elections. So hindsight's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
But historically, I was going on what normally happens around elections. And I didn't want to waste precious time by marketing it and then it be stale when the market picked up after elections. Unfortunately, that wasn't what happened.
Yeah.
I had an amazing agent on it. The agent that gave me a shoulder tap about this deal, I gave him the listing back.
Can you tell people who he is?
Sure. Charlie Brothers. Ray White Manukau, great agent, great operator. So
Charlie Brothers.
So Charlie did everything he could. You know, within 2 weeks, I had 9 offers on the properties. Unfortunately, they weren't all to the level that they needed to be at.
Yeah.
Within a short period of time, I had 2 amazing offers, one on each property. One fell over due to finance and the other one was a non-seller who just couldn't find a buyer for it.
Right.
So it was a tough market and he did end up getting one away for me and ended up getting some great money for that. So originally my numbers when I purchased it was to sell it for 1.3 and we were looking
1.3
total.
Jeez.
Remember,
okay.
it's two properties.
Yeah.
And so what we were planning was a $120,000 profit.
Yeah.
Split between 2 of us. Remember, I'm doing this with a JV partner. So what I brought to the deal is I found the deal, I managed the renovation and with the help of them actually because they're great with helping with the renovation and I paid for the reno.
I see.
So with this, we were going to come out with 60 grand each. And so the plan is I always factor in around 5 months of holding. So the first property that sold was actually the rear house with the 4 bedrooms and the 2 bathrooms. And that sold dead on 6 months of owning.
6 months.
6 months of owning.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we always knew that the 2 bedroom at the front would be harder to sell.
Yeah.
Just because 2 bedrooms are always the hardest.
Yeah, of course.
But because it was 2 bedrooms and it was attached and it was only a carport and because it's also in an area where there are fewer buyers.
Yeah. Because if you're talking about central 2 bedroom unit, they do go quite good because you're a lot of, I guess, young professionals getting into it.
Yeah. So it did end up selling. It actually only settled in April.
Okay.
So that ended up being 8 months for that one. And the good thing is that when we bought it in July, the market had moved up.
Mm.
And it was actually looking really good profit-wise. We were looking at about a $200,000 profit if we had managed to get it at the height of the market. We didn't get that. We did manage to sell them both, and we ended up making $150,000 profit, so 75 each. So we still made more.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it also comes as an opportunity cost.
Yeah, of course.
You know, if we could have sold them both after 5 months,
Speed is king.
we could be, yeah, exactly. We could have been halfway through, almost finished another deal.
Yeah, of course.
But, you know, like we still made money. So it's definitely nothing to be sneezed at. And I wanted to just make it clear to the listeners that it's not always sunshine and rainbows with trading. You know,
sounds like sunshine to me. Like 8 months, 150K.
Yeah, that's right. And, you know, it's about just taking it as it comes. And there's no point getting stressed. And I think the key with that deal is really about the networking.
Yeah.
You know, I would never have got that deal had I not made the relationships with agents, making the relationships with my JV partners, talking to other agents when Charlie's listing had expired. He'd already moved one on. That 2-bedroom then had to be cast out wide. So what I did is I just did a general with a number of good operators in the area and just got them to push it out to whoever they could. And it was actually a Barfoot's agents that ended up selling it for me.
Yeah.
And so, you know, at the end of the day, they got the deal done for me at a really good price. So I can't complain at that.
Yeah, solid. And you bought from a wholesaler.
Yes.
Essentially what the Americans call it, like wholesalers.
Yep.
And so they actually came out pretty good, right? They were able to on-sell it with a 100K margin on top.
Exactly.
I mean,
it ended
less
up being
GST, less tax, 50K. How long was his transaction?
Yeah, so it's contemporaneous. So
Jeez.
all he had to do was put in a deposit and pay for the title upgrade, which is usually about $10,000. So he had to have his solicitor fees, and if he had any costs associated with lending the deposit.
It's not the Property Ninja, was it?
No, it wasn't the Property Ninja.
You guys know about the Property Ninja? If you guys are listening, who's the Property Ninja?
I don't know. Who is the Property Ninja?
You haven't seen Rick Hill?
Oh, Rick Hill. Oh, I bought off Rick Hill before.
Yeah,
He's a great operator. No, this one was not Rick.
Yeah. If you guys don't know Rick Hill, like if you guys are listening, this guy is prophetic when it comes to trading. He does 3-figure trades, right? Like over 100 transactions per year.
Yeah.
It's insane.
He definitely trades a lot of property. And I am very lucky to call Rick a good friend of mine, and I've done a few deals with Rick of late.
So now you have sort of put yourself on a spot where you need to invite Rick Hill to come talk.
He'd come and talk to you anytime.
He talks like a bullet train as well.
Oh, he does. Yep, he does.
Yeah, that's cool. So, okay, this deal, sounded pretty good. And I think what are the things that, if you have to boil it down to, say, 3 things, what were the important things? You got network was one of them, you said.
Yeah, definitely network. You know, I would never have come across that deal if the agent hadn't have brought it to me. It's about the relationships, you know, giving that deal back to Charlie. You know, he brought it to me, giving it back to Charlie, giving Charlie a chance to sell it, you know, was really important to me. Because if I didn't do that, why would he bring me the next deal?
Charlie made 2 commissions.
No, Charlie didn't.
3?
No, he just shoulder tapped me and said, hey, talk to this guy.
Yeah.
So Charlie only worked on one end.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm definitely...
There'll be heaps of deals where he made 3 commissions. So.
Oh, definitely. And I'm all for that. You know, if they've worked for it, then of course they deserve to be paid for it. It's about leveraging other people's money, in my mind. You know, your funds can only go so far. If you can then work with someone else and do multiple deals, then that's always what speaks to me.
On that note, I feel like there are some hard things you need to manage. Like especially if you're like, hey, let's do this JV. We're going to make this much money. Things take longer. How are you managing all that?
Yeah, so I think it just comes down to open and honest conversations. You know, I'm lucky enough that this person that I did this deal with has been trading as long as I have.
Right.
So she's no stranger to how things work.
Yeah.
And it's about making sure that, you know, me that's bought the deal and is managing that sale process, that we're always moving.
Yeah.
You know, we were always getting offers on it. We were always looking at ways that we could maximize it, looking at the listing photos. Is there something that we should change? Should we be moving it up? Should we be taking it off and putting a new listing on? Should we change the signboards? Do we change the agency? How do we market this differently so that we can get the buyers in? And sometimes that doesn't yield any results at all.
Yeah.
But it warrants the question to make sure that we're actually exploring all options.
And I know what you're going to say for the third principle. Do your numbers.
Oh, definitely. And I am always conservative on my numbers.
Yeah.
And so for me, both of those properties sold for more than my original purchase numbers. And so the hard thing with this property was because it is such a niche area of Mangere, I really made sure that I cast my net wide to talk to agents, because you could imagine in July last year, there were few listings, few things that had sold. So it was really hard to get a clear idea about what the end values were. Yeah. And so talking to agents that I trust, because not all agents are going to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
You know, they've got a vested interest in, you know, if they can tell you they can sell it for moonbeams, then you could give them the listing out the other side because this person's going to sell it for this much money for me. But then, you know, through that conditioning process, you realise that it's not possible. So it's really important that you choose the agents carefully that you're talking to. And so talking to those agents really came up with some conservative end values. You know, what do I need to price this at to get it to move quickly? Unfortunately, for the 2-bedroom, it was hard to get anybody on it. Yeah. Just because there's very few people that are looking for a 2-bedroom, unfortunately.
Yeah, of course. Especially, I guess, it is a cross lease in Mangere at the end of the day, which is going to be harder. So given this current market condition, we've got listeners who are trading, we've got listeners who are buy and hold. What do you think? What do you think is needed to win?
Hard work. Hard work and time. You know, there's so many deals out there. There's so many people that are willing to meet the market. And there's so many great deals out there if you're willing to put the time and the effort into finding them. Yeah. It's about building those relationships with agents, making sure that you're the one that's putting pen to paper or your hand up at auction so that the agents know that you're serious, so that when they've got that one deal that needs to be sold, who do they pick up the phone and talk to?
You don't see an AI solution coming for that?
Like, you're better at this than I am, Blendon.
I just feel like you can automate a lot of this stuff, you know.
If I knew about AI, I'd get them to do my social media, which is really lacking at the moment.
Yeah, no, definitely. I would say, from what I have witnessed, right? Like, maybe you see the success on the other end for a lot of investors, clients that are doing well. Like the amount of work, like you can see from someone who, you know, just say like, oh, it's not working, versus like someone is making it work and do 2 or 3 deals within the same year. It's like the level of effort and the details they go through and the emails and like the questions they ask is just like a world of difference, right? So I would say hard work is definitely important.
I think to go alongside that, though, you've also got to love the process. So for me, I love going through the properties. I know that there's some people that get quite despondent when they don't purchase the property. You know, they've gone through all this hard work, this due diligence, and they've really fallen in love with the property and then they don't buy it. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you feel that, you know, sense that you're never going to find a deal. And I don't get that. Yeah. You know, for me, it's about loving the process. I love looking at it. I love running the numbers. I love the connections with the agents and putting the offers in. And, you know, if it comes to be, then that's fantastic. At the end of the day, most properties you don't purchase. For the numbers that we're trying to buy them for.
You sound like Warren Buffett.
Hard. Oh,
yeah, Warren Buffett's like, I'm going to look at 1,000 deals and maybe do one.
Exactly. He's a smart guy, that guy.
Do you smell that?
Oh, what is it?
I would say dog piss, but for a trader is good deal.
You know what? It was actually rats. One of the last properties that I went through, because we do a visit day on a Tuesday with the clients. Yeah. And they took us to one, and have a look at it, 89 Mahia Road. Whoever bought it has done an amazing job. But I tell you what, I far prefer go through that property now than when they bought it. Honestly, you had to hold your breath and run through it. One of my clients wouldn't even step foot into that property.
Well, Mahia, like, just in my mind, I mean, I don't know the area well. I feel like it's gangs, you know, straight gangs.
No, you're giving Manurewa a bad rep. Yes,
really?
there are certainly.
I have properties in Manurewa, so come on.
Hey, I grew up in Manurewa.
I sold the chicken nibbles and the lamb flaps to my island boys.
Excellent.
So,
yeah. You know. Sounds like something that they would like.
No stranger to South Auckland.
No. There's definitely some streets to stay away from, and that's why you really need to be a market expert and go around all the streets to know what you're actually buying.
Yeah.
But no, Mahia's not too bad. There's lots of development sites on Mahia. They're getting snapped up for really good prices. But this trader for this property wasn't really development potential. As we know, a lot of developers have retreated out of the market and they're really looking at that cream. And this one didn't hold that. So, yeah, have a look at 89 Mahia Road. It was terrible. If you're talking about worst smelling houses, that was one of them.
Yeah, interesting, huh? Like that's why I always just joke around with my clients. To a normal person, this is the most revolting smell. To a trader or a property investor, is the smell of opportunity.
Yeah, definitely.
It's been incredibly enlightening, Sally. Thank you for your insights today. I thought maybe if we wrap up as a final thought on advice for people, what would that be? What would that one thing be?
One thing, I think it comes down to what we talked about before. I'm probably going to extend it to two because I do like to talk.
Okay.
But number one would be the networking.
We'll give you permission.
Give me excellent. It's about that networking relationships. I think in this time of the market where it is a little bit doom and gloom, and there is more pain to come, as you've said. There are still going to be opportunities out there. And so it's about keeping your mindset right. And if you're surrounding yourself with the right people and having the right conversations, that's going to help motivate you. It's going to help you see the bigger picture, because at the end of the day, you need to be true and accurate with what you're doing. Talking with agents about what's actually happening in the market, what sort of buyers are looking, what's their price point, what's their tick boxes, so that you can tailor your property purchases to that. Talking to traders about what they're doing, what they've sold. I've had mixed results from my clients. One of my clients that's bought a property in Otara and really struggling to move it on. Looks like we've done that now, and she's still going to make some money, which is fantastic. And then I've got other clients that have, smashed it, and they've exceeded their end values, and they're really pushing some really good stock out there at some really good prices, and they're making some really good profits. And it comes down to making sure that you're having those conversations about what the buyers are wanting. And those clients have really nailed it. And that's why they're going to still be successful in a market like we're in now. And it's about having those conversations with people so that you can understand that you're making the best moves for you and you're still going to make money at the end of the day. I'm seeing lots of people buying properties out there at way too high a price. That fear of missing out is still quite rife out there in terms of buying those do-ups or those add value properties.
Yeah.
And to me, it's about making sure that you're not getting swept up in it, that you've got patience and that your mindset is right. Because like we've talked about, offering on 100 properties and getting told no, that can be really hard on your mindset.
Yeah.
Plus
the news.
Yeah, for sure. The media is very doom and gloom. But how do you keep going when you've heard no 100 times? It gets quite hard. And so I actually brought in my gratitude journals. I was going to talk about this, but I think for me, if you are somebody that needs to stay current with their motivation, I'd urge you to get a gratitude journal. There's a few good ones out there. One of my old clients, Hida Nathan, he's got a Māori gratitude journal, Whakawhetai. Yep. This was my original one, just the 5-minute journal. And it really talks about your RAS, your reticular activating system, and making sure that if you're writing it down and you're thinking about it every day, why won't it come true? Because you're focusing your brain to only look for that.
Oh, you're telling everyone you're telling everyone about The Secret.
I am telling everyone about The Secret. And do you know what? I've never read The Secret. I've got it at home to read, and I've always chosen other books over it.
You already know The Secret. That's why you're not reading it.
Maybe that's why. And so I think it's important at this point, when there is opportunity around the corner, but you've got to keep going to find it. And so it's important to keep that mindset going until you find it.
The opportunity come when the student is ready.
Very true.
So you have to be ready.
Sound like a master.
Oh, I've been watching Star Wars. So. Fantastic advice, Sally. Thanks again. And thank you for joining us today and listening. And again, if you guys have found value, all I ask for is one thing, is to share the episode with one other person. And if you guys want to get a project managed, if you guys got some renovation thing that you want to do, look, Sally actually managed a couple of our renovations before. So you can pay her to get that job done.
I actually want to interrupt you and say thank you. You don't know this. I've never told you this before. But one of your listeners from my very first story that I spoke with you reached out to me. He did a JV deal with one of my clients at a Papatoe job. And I think from memory, they made 35 each. And he's just bought his first trade in Manurewa. He's doing it all on his own, and I'm managing the renovation for him. And so just from this podcast, one of your listeners managed to make some good money, and there's more to come. So,
awesome. I'm so glad to hear. And so that's one side of it. Like if you're like, hey, actually, I don't want to learn all this. You pay Sally very well to do her job really well. Or you can just get her to teach you, which we kind of have a partnership going on here, which is if we got someone that needs a bit more hand-holding, Sally's got a coaching program that you can jump on, especially when it comes to renovations and trading. No one's better than Sally, who's just so approachable, easy to understand. That's most important. Thank you, listeners, and I'll see you guys again.